Welcome friends, in this video we're going to again take a look at making decisions, and this time we will use a new construct, and it takes this shape here. So for example, it says when slash then. So we will use this to control our output. When some condition is true, then you take some action based on that, and all of that goes inside a case. So to be more exact, we're going to have case slash when slash then. So let's take a look at what I mean here more concretely. I know at first everything is abstract. You've got to see it in action at least one time. So I am going to type, first of all, look into the database table we're going to use. So this time I'm going to say select star from salesperson. Hit execute. And look at this data here. You've got sales quota, bonus, commission percentage, and you've got a quantity here called the sales year to date, this column right here. So we'll pretend that we don't have the commission percentage or the other columns. We're just going to take that one quantity called the sales year to date. And for example, if it's less than $200,000, we'll take 10% of that quantity as the commission. When the sales year to date says between 200,000 and a million, then we'll take 20% of this value as the commission. And when the sales year to date, as an example, is above a million, we'll take 30% of that as the commission. Notice I've just mentioned 3 different cases, and that's why it's good to use the case when then in this case. Let me write this down though, so it's a little more concrete. In simple English, when sales year to date less than 200,000, like that, then you calculate the commission by doing one of these. Okay, commission equals sales year to date, and you multiply that, say, by 0.1. See that? So that's a logical condition here, because it's either true or false. Either the sales year to date is less than 200,000 or it's not. It's a logical true or false kind of condition. If that condition is true, then the commission is calculated as shown. All right, let me copy this at least one more time. Control C, and then Control V down below. In the next case, we might have something that looks like this. When the sales year to date look like this, okay? Between, say, 200,000, I'm going to put the commas in, and say 1 million, like that. So when the sales year to date value is between 200,000 and a million, then the commission, perhaps we can calculate by doing sales year to date multiplied, say, by 0.2. We're making the commission higher for people who are selling more stuff to encourage them to sell more. And the last condition, in a relatively simple English at first, will be this one. So when sales year to date greater, say, like that, greater than a million, then the commission will be equal to, or we will calculate it as, the sales year to date times 0.3. So when you look at this, if you have to pause the screen, stare at it a little bit, study it in detail. So now let's convert all of this into more exact code. So instead of saying select star from sales.salesperson, we're going to create a procedure that takes this form here. We'll say, first of all, I've got to be sure that I don't have an existing one already named this way. So I'm going to just try to drop it in case I do have it. I'm going to say drop procedure, and then commissions. I'm going to make sure I don't have it already. All right, command completed successfully. I did have it, you see? All right, I'm going to collapse the comments so we can see more. All right, let me get going now. So I'll say create procedure. I'll call it commissions. Then we'll say as, and now we define the body of it. So I will say select. And remember, in that table, we have one column that names sales year to date, and it's kind of messy. It's not formatted nicely. So let's format that first. I'm going to say format, name of column, so sales year to date, like that. And put a comma, and between single quotes, put a C. The default currency formatting is American dollars, okay? So you don't even need to put the comma EN-US. You can just leave it in this form. And just aliases, I'll say as sales year to date. And then from the next, I'm going to say here sales.salesperson, like that. So make sure you stick in the go to separate things into batches as we've done before. And for now, I'm just going to leave it this way so we can run it and see what happens at each stage. So begin with this basic skeleton, give it an execution here. Make sure you get saved here. And remember to call it down below. I'm going to type the name of it. So I'm going to say commissions. That's it. That's how you call. All right, so hit execute. And all I have at first, as you can see, is sales year to date, but it's formatted as currency. So what we are going to do now, remember, is essentially grab each value and based on the value in that column, for example, we can determine the commission amount. So the next stage here, I'll type the following. I will say introduce a new column essentially. So take a look. That's going to take this shape. It's a bit weird at first. You got to space things out. All right, so we've got this one here. Sales year to date formatted as currency now. And now I'll type between double quotes commission earned, like that. And this essentially will become the name of our commission field. You're going to put the equals after the closing quote. And then after that, this is where the heart of it appears. So I will say when sales year to date, this quantity, the value in a cell or column, let's say less than 200,000, like that. I apply the logic I described at the beginning. So I will say, in that case, then format. And you want to format because you want things to look like currency, so it look professional. Sales year to date. And again, we'll take that quantity and multiply by 0.01, 10% in other words of it. And again, do that. And you know why I've got to do that, right? I want to format as currency. All right, and notice there's something missing here. We're getting errors. So when you deal with when and then, it's like a series of cases. So you got to put the case at the beginning like that. And I'm indenting my code because that's the way I do it. Helps me to organize my thinking. So you've got the case, and then within that, you have a series of these kinds of quantities where you have the when followed by the then, by the action to be taken when the logical condition inside the when, meaning this is met, or it's true, or it's satisfied. All right, let me do one more here. So I'll say when, for example, sales, and now this is the case that corresponds to being between, say, 200,000 and a million, okay? So when sales year to date, like that, between 200,000 and 1 million, then we take another action, which is again to take that, copy it, basically, paste it down below, and that one will multiply by 0.2. Okay. All right, I'm going to move this up a little bit here. And what I want you to do is, remember, I already have this procedure saved now, so pause the video for a second and imagine that when I resave the procedure, how should I change it so I can save it again? Think about it. All right, so remember, because if I try to run it with the create, it's already created, it's going to give an error, so we can fix that simply by typing alter this time, just to change the existing one, that's all. All right, and at the end of all of this, at the end of the case, we got to put the end. They come as a pair. So you've got the case followed by the end. Between the case and the end, you can put a series of logical tests. That is a logical test essentially, and then the then expresses the condition to be applied or the consequence of that logical test. At the next stage, this here is a logical test. Either the sales year to date is between 200,000 and a million, or it's not. That's it. If it is, then you display the sales year to date multiplied by 0.2 formatted as currency, you see? So if you think about what we learned previously about it with the if and the else, the logic here is kind of similar, except this is more compact, and this is very useful, obviously, when you could potentially have a lot of cases to examine. All right, so I'm going to now run this altered version. I'm going to save, in other words, execute. All right, look at the output down below. Command completed successfully, good. So that's all of the code. And again, if you need to, Control-Shift-R, refresh everything. Underlining goes away. And I'm going to run this again. So type the name of the procedure and give it a run. So execute. Okay, let's take a look at the output. Does it make sense? Well, this sales year to date is 559,697.56. So if I look at that quantity, that first sales year to date, that falls within this range right here. See that? It's 559,697. That falls within there. So the commission would be calculated by taking a new calculator now, 559,697 and multiplying by 0.2. That's how you do that on your calculator. So I'm going to do that one time. I am going to use Excel for that purpose. I just want to confirm that everything is working as expected. All right, so I've got Excel open here. I'm just going to type equals. I grab that value, 559,697.56, and then multiply by 0.2. I hit enter, and I get 111,139.5. You see? So that confirms it's working correctly. That's how you can check, right? Okay, let me collapse this for a second. And what I want you to do is observe the next bit, of course. These are null, so pause the video and answer why are they null. All right, so I hope you've been able to say that because these sales year-to-date amounts are above the 1 million mark, there's no commission earned calculated. So at the last stage, we've got to add that. So now we'll say when sales year-to-date greater than, say, 1 million, like that. Then we show the last line. So take that, Control-C. Control-V down below to paste in. Change this quantity 0.2 to 0.3. And remember what this is saying in simple English is you inspect the sales year to date. So for example, take a look. This is the value in the blue box over here. I take that value, I check whether it's more than 1 million. It is, so I would multiply it by 0.3, and now it become the commission earned. I grab the next value, I multiply it, in this case again, by 0.3, and that becomes the commission earned. You see the logic? And you obviously repeat that for the records from top to bottom. And here, That is not a great number of records. It's a pretty small number, 17. All right, so let's run that last bit to see what happens. And again, you want to alter the procedure. All right, so execute. Let's see. And now the new version is saved. Commissions to call it. Unfortunately, this window here in SQL Server jumps around sometimes. So highlight here. Execute. And now you've got the commission earned amounts for everybody. Nicely calculated. Okay, good. So let me pull this down. So I hope you understand what we've done here. We saw some sales year-to-date amounts, and then we broke them down by different cases. The reason that I'm using 200,000, then between 200 and a million, and then greater than a million is just made up. That doesn't mean anything. You can use whatever you want. The reason that I'm multiplying by 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 is just made up. Doesn't mean anything. The only thing that's meaningful in this lesson truly is how to use the case with the end, and then between the case and the end, all of these, the when followed by the then for the first case, or the when followed by the then for the second, or the when followed by the then for the third. That's really the heart of it. Okay, so this is all of the code from top to bottom. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next one.